Aloha everybody. So we got a bunch of great comments on the last video about the letters Tory Lanez's attorney had written to Tory Lanez before and after trial started, which the new attorneys had given to the court and basically waived confidentiality and made public. So I wanted to go through those comments, which I have on my screen, and discuss it with you and see which of those points, rather than commenting in the comments back, I figured just make another video and talk about it. So let's try to do that. I think some of these are super interesting. So, number one, oh, that one's confidential. Don't want to talk about that. But big things coming. It's just unbelievable how an innocent man could be held without his free will. The man is innocent. He was set up to be. So there's no evidence of a setup. Absolutely zero. Now, I know people are making accusations, and there is some interesting accusation later in one of these comments about a conflict of interest, which we'll get to. Let's talk about it when we get there. Let's see what else we got. Tory should have taken the plea deal and kept his mouth shut and head down for 2 years. He never had the leg to stand on and jump, and Shawn knew this. That's what I read in the email Shawn sent, at least as far as this defense goes. The Kelsie was the real shooter defense. That's what she thought originally. So does that mean he should plead guilty? He can't plead guilty if he didn't do it. At least that's what a lawyer is required to advise you. That being said, was the plea deal 2 years? You can tell me if that's absolutely true. I don't know that it was published, but my understanding is he was never going to take a plea deal no matter what. This person says, correct, Shawn Holley is actually known as a plea deal attorney. I don't know that to be true. So my guess is that she couldn't get him a deal and wouldn't have him serve time and be deported. Why she allowed herself to get caught up in the negotiations for Kelsie's medical bills as a criminal attorney defies logic, though. I can understand how some attorneys can make mistakes. I don't know that this actually happened in this case, so this is just an accusation made by Kelsie. I know she was trying to get Kelsie on side, which is probably what she should have done before an indictment, but you can't promise to pay them in any way in order to get them on your side. To have her actual fingers in the deal as amateurish ruined a 30-year career. I doubt her career is ruined, honestly. And then this person says, Relly Sunside says, he didn't want to be deported. That makes complete sense to me why he wasn't going to take a plea deal no matter what if it was above a certain level, which would cause a Canadian to not be allowed back into the U.S. in the future. Here, Machiavelli writes, if Tory's lawyer would have let the driver testify and just agreed to the delay, he would be home right now. The driver Quan is on Tory's side and has maintained that till this day, his lawyer got cocky thinking there was already enough doubt established. So there's absolutely zero proof of that. In fact, what Shawn said was, Miss Holley said, was that if Quan testified, and you testified, I still don't know I want to run with it because I don't know that you'd win anyway, right? So the idea that just because he's on his side, he would have been a good witness, I don't know that it would have been that slam dunk, quite frankly. There's also a question as to why they thought there was enough evidence of lack of guilt established. I really don't know. I do know, but let's see what else we got. I agree. I think Tory as well was thinking that doubt was established, as we all saw was leading up to why he didn't take the stand. This is unbelievable. Anybody who read those transcripts knows he's innocent. Now, this is important, and we've talked about this in multiple videos here. Just because someone says something doesn't mean you have to believe it, right? Just because it's in the transcript doesn't mean you as a juror needs to believe what the witness says. And in fact, often, almost every case, quite frankly, almost every witness will say things that contradict themselves over time. Over time, in the same statement, you'll say something that contradicts itself. Just because you misspeak, because you stutter, because your memory plays a game on you, because your mind's playing tricks on you, whatever it happens to be. So for all these reasons, it's not uncommon to have to believe one part of someone's testimony and not believe the other part of someone's testimony. I don't know that I buy that it's a slam dunk that reading the transcripts means someone is innocent, or that you have to believe every word in the transcripts. Give it up, laugh my something off. You hear every time with some bull, it wasn't viable because it was a lie. There's some truth to that. Even with Kelsie playing dumb, they couldn't sell it. You heard the man say Quan wasn't going to bring nothing to the case and Tory was going to perjure himself. He did it, period. The driver disappeared, was literally out of the country during the trial despite state subpoena. Sounds to me like he took money to be quiet and wouldn't take. So a lot of this is conjecture, right? Like, there's no way for us at this stage of the game to say that we know he took money to be quiet. If he had exculpatory testimony, Tory's team would be parading him all over the internet. I 100% believe that. And I don't know why anyone would not believe that. Tory doesn't even mention dude in his prison blogs. I didn't read those, so I don't know about that. And then Jane Miller says, you just made that up. Like the way y'all continue to pass this information is crazy. Okay. See this one. Okay, so this one is from Machiavelli, who I've spoken to before. This how you doing? They seem to disagree with Shawn Holley's learned legal testimony. Let me see. It was a viable strategy. So the exact opposite of what the attorney of 30 years experience says. She never anticipated Kelsie recanting her statements on the stand, although I guess the accusation is Shawn Holley was involved with trying to get Kelsie to recant. She never then anticipated it. So that's the accusation here. It's the saying that you never saw Tory shoot. Shawn is the one who established and pushed the Kelsie's defense for 2 years leading up to trial. She only switched up after Kelsie's interview with prosecutors a month before trial, and then withdrew from the case to protect herself after prosecutors accused her of bribery. So let's be very clear. You should change strategies when the evidence which you're given changes. Anytime the evidence which you are given or that you have to run a case, you have to change strategies. Of course you do. It's like saying because the defense moves their team to run a different defense, you wouldn't change your offense, or vice versa. You have to every single time. And then Kay Cross responds, it was never a viable strategy, and Shawn didn't push anything. Tory allowed the media to push that narrative. I gotta be honest, I kind of go along with that one. That makes sense to me. Here it goes. The lawyer did use the Kelsie strategy of trial. It was a flop. Hindsight being 2020, the Kelsie strategy did not work. Let's be very clear. Primarily because of his recorded jailhouse call to her. Why would he be in jail for a crime he didn't commit? Calling the shooter, well, I mean, that happens. That happens a lot. People go to jail for crimes they didn't commit. Let's not say that doesn't happen. To apologize for being so drunk and then asking the shooter how the victim is doing. And it happens. You can't really predict how people really act when they're in a situation like this, because quite frankly, it's all over the board when this stuff happens. All the lawyers were just trying to get paid. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think that's true at all. Nobody with legal training thought this was winnable by energy strategy, and his appeals lawyers are going to squeeze him dry too. Well, that's Jake Stroll's words. I don't want to co-opt any of those, although let me not say anything. Okay, so this is a person who took, let me see. Ayiti took quibble with the fact that I said that she sent letters, and she says it's not an official letter. Any communication from your lawyer is about as official as it gets. You don't need to, it's your lawyer. They're giving you advice. There's no, this is an official letter, this is not an official letter. There's no side conversation. In fact, when you start thinking that you and your lawyer are having side conversations, that's when you start to turn up your case because you're misunderstanding the relationship. It is a business relationship. You're paying for their time. You're paying for their knowledge. They don't tell you something that is not related to the case. Even if they do, it should tangentially be related to the case, or there's a misunderstanding of the relationship on one side or both. Not an official letter, it was emails. The emails are official, as an official gets. Shawn Holley has a documentary produced by Rock Nation, which is the same label that Meg is signed with. It is reading conflict of interest. So that's interesting. Let's talk about that after we read the other comments. It's literally considered an official letter in court documents between, again, the official letter thing is not super important to me. It's reading, you get your information from Twitter and don't really know the law. Did she have this documentary at the time? If not, well, as long as you're negotiating for something, you shouldn't be negotiating with someone who has a direct investment in the outcome of your trial that would bring you a benefit in your trial. At the other hand, you could, if you get it signed off in a standard contract, especially for a lawyer like Shawn Holley, my bet is going to be signed off. I don't know which stage the documentary was. If it's really a documentary, my understanding is it's actually sort of like a very generic based on the life of, just because they wanted to get some other sort of something attached to it. But is that a conflict of interest? It really depends on how what stage the particular negotiations were, what were the contracts on both sides, did Tory agree with it? But the more important thing is she pulled out before they started trial. So if she pulled out before they started trial, that solves the conflict of interest in a lot, if not any way. There has to be something she did to the detriment of Tory in order for there to be a conflict of interest that affects the case. It's not uncommon for a lawyer to have a conflict of interest with the client. Like that's, and I'm not saying there was one here, but generally, let's think about this. It's not uncommon. It happens all the time. For example, there's a lot of attorneys who will sue, and they're suing the insurance company. Meanwhile, they're insured by the same insurance company. You get into a car accident, the person on the other side has Geico, but I'm also insured by Geico. That's a conflict of interest. Now, that being said, we're going to have it in the contract that you understand the conflict of interest and you give it up. The other thing is, that's not something that's going to affect me. Now, if Geico is supposed to insure me in the lawsuit, I hit someone last week, they're my lawyers, meanwhile I'm suing them on your behalf, I should probably pull out of the case. But once I do, there's no more conflict of interest. It's done. In this case, Shawn Holley pulled out of the case as soon as any sort of suggestion, it was actually before the conflict of interest, she pulled out of the case in order to not cause a detriment of his case for any reason, and that would assume meaning take care of the problem with any conflict of interest. So I don't really see that as being a real issue, unless you can show me based on this conflict of interest, she did something to hurt him. And I honestly, I don't really see it here. It was his trial attorney, McDezian, who said we're ready for trial and ready to proceed. I don't see how Shawn Holley made that happen. Here it was. It's an absolute lie. What is the truth? Yes, it was released right before he left the case. So does that mean nothing? Still a conflict? There you go. She signed with them professionally regardless of whether it's label or management contract. I agree with that. Either way, it's a conflict. If both Shawn Holley and Meg work with or for the same company, it could be. I mean, especially if the company manages Meg, it means they do because their PR image. I don't know about all that. But that's what I want to tell you. Those are the comments on the case. Rather than writing a response to each individual one or doing individual videos, let's just put one together for all of it. Keep commenting. I really appreciate the information you guys are sending me. Someone sent me some great information for Jonathan Majors, so we're going to do something on that in the future. I'm hoping there's some movement on the Black Sheep case, although there has been a lot of interest. To me, that one's the most interesting, quite frankly. And if there's anyone else that you guys want to hear about, a particular pending case, anything about trial strategy, rules of evidence, how defense attorneys really act or react on these things, I'll be back to regular schedule maybe in about a week or two. So once I do that, I'm more than happy to answer questions that I can on any of these cases. I hope this video comes out okay. Thank you guys very much always for subscribing and liking.